The opulent dining room glittered with chandeliers, its tables adorned with crisp white linens and delicate crystal glassware. This was no ordinary establishment. It was the epitome of exclusivity, a haven for the world's elite, tucked away in the heart of Los Angeles. The restaurant prided itself on catering to those with refined tastes and deep pockets, but behind the veil of sophistication lay an uglier truth. When one of the most recognized faces in the world, Snoop Dogg, attempted to walk through its gilded doors, he was met with an unexpected and deeply unsettling response. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. It all began on a balmy evening in November, when the iconic rapper, actor, and cultural icon arrived at the venue with a small entourage. Dressed in an impeccable suit paired with his signature swagger, Snoop Dogg exuded the kind of star power that turns heads wherever he goes. This night was meant to be no different. He had reserved a table days in advance, a rare privilege in a place known for its months-long waiting list. Yet as he approached the entrance, a hostess with a clipboard and a rehearsed smile blocked his path. "Excuse me," she said with a tone that was far from apologetic. "We can't let you in." At first, Snoop assumed there must have been a mix-up. "I got a reservation," he replied, his voice calm but firm. He gestured to his entourage, who stood by awkwardly, their confusion mirroring his own. The hostess, however, did not waver. She glanced at her clipboard, as though verifying something before responding with chilling finality. "I'm sorry, but we have a strict dress code and policies in place." The explanation rang hollow. Snoop was impeccably dressed, his outfit easily worth more than the combined salaries of the staff at the door. But the deeper message was clear, even if unspoken. He was being judged not for his attire, but for who he was. Or rather, what he represented. The casual dismissal was as dehumanizing as it was baffling. For a moment, Snoop Dogg stood still, his usually unflappable demeanor shaken. "Man, are you serious right now?" he asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Nearby patrons, dressed in designer clothes and dripping in wealth, craned their necks to watch the scene unfold. Some murmured in hushed tones, others averted their gaze. The atmosphere grew tense as the reality of the situation began to sink in. Snoop Dogg, a global superstar who had transcended the music industry, was being turned away not because of who he was, but because of the color of his skin. The hostess's excuse about a dress code unraveled quickly as others in the line were ushered in without scrutiny. A white man in a polo shirt and jeans passed through with a simple nod, while a woman in a cocktail dress that barely met the standards of formal wear received a warm welcome. The disparity was glaring, and Snoop Dogg, ever the wordsmith, couldn't let it slide. "This ain't about no dress code," he said, his voice now carrying the weight of suppressed anger. "This is about something else." What followed was a series of escalating tensions that exposed the deeply ingrained prejudice lurking beneath the restaurant's glossy surface. Members of Snoop's entourage began filming the incident, their cameras capturing every humiliating moment. The footage would later go viral, sparking outrage across social media platforms. In the video, Snoop is seen calmly but resolutely confronting the staff. "You think I ain't good enough to eat here?" he asks. "Y'all know who I am, but that ain't even the point. This ain't just about me. This is about respect, about dignity." The restaurant manager was eventually called to the scene, but his arrival only worsened the situation. Rather than de-escalating the conflict, he doubled down on the hostess's stance, citing vague policies and offering platitudes about maintaining the establishment's standards. His words dripped with condescension, and his refusal to admit wrongdoing only fanned the flames of injustice. "I'm sorry, Mr. Broadus," he said, using Snoop's legal name in a way that felt both insincere and dismissive. "But we reserve the right to deny service at our discretion." The implication was clear. Their discretion allowed for the exclusion of black patrons, no matter how famous, successful, or deserving they might be. Snoop Dogg's calm exterior began to crack as the weight of the situation bore down on him. "I've been in this game for decades," he said, his voice trembling with both frustration and resolve. "I've seen a lot, but this right here, this is straight up disrespect, not just to me, but to everybody who looks like me." The incident, once shared online, ignited a firestorm of backlash. Fans, celebrities, and activists flooded social media with posts condemning the restaurant's actions. Hashtags like #racismexposed and #boycott-the-elite trended for days as people expressed their outrage. Some shared their own stories of discrimination in luxury spaces, while others called for systemic changes in how such establishments operate. Snoop Dogg himself took to Instagram, posting the now viral footage along with a caption that read, "Same story, different day. They don't want us in their spaces, but they love our culture. Time to change the narrative." The backlash was swift and unforgiving. The restaurant, once celebrated for its exclusivity, found itself at the center of a public relations nightmare. Customers canceled reservations en masse, and several high-profile figures, including other celebrities, publicly distanced themselves from the establishment. The management scrambled to issue a statement, but their half-hearted apology only added fuel to the fire. "We regret any misunderstandings that may have occurred," the statement read, failing to acknowledge the root of the problem or take responsibility for their actions. For Snoop Dogg, the incident was both a personal affront and a painful reminder of the systemic racism that persists even at the highest levels of society. Despite his fame and success, he was still subjected to the same prejudices that countless others face daily. Yet he refused to let the moment define him. Instead, he used his platform to amplify the voices of those who have been silenced for too long. In the weeks that followed, Snoop partnered with advocacy groups to shed light on discrimination in luxury spaces. He appeared on talk shows, participated in panel discussions, and lent his voice to campaigns aimed at fostering inclusivity and equality. "This ain't just about me getting turned away from a restaurant," he said during one interview. "This is about breaking down the walls they've built to keep us out. It's about making sure the next generation doesn't have to go through what we went through." The incident also sparked a broader conversation about the intersection of race, wealth, and privilege. Critics pointed out the hypocrisy of establishments that profit from black culture while simultaneously excluding black people from their spaces. From the music played in their lounges to the fashion trends they adopt, these venues owe much of their allure to the very communities they marginalize. Snoop's experience became a rallying cry for change, a stark reminder that fame and fortune do not exempt anyone from the realities of racism. As the dust settled, the restaurant's reputation lay in tatters. Lawsuits alleging discriminatory practices began to surface, and former employees came forward with stories of similar incidents involving other black patrons. The fallout was a wake-up call for the industry, forcing many to confront their own biases and reassess their policies. Meanwhile, Snoop Dogg emerged from the ordeal with his head held high, his resilience and advocacy earning him widespread admiration. The shocking moment at the restaurant's entrance was more than just an isolated incident. It was a microcosm of a larger, deeply entrenched issue, one that transcends borders, industries, and socioeconomic status. For Snoop Dogg, it was a painful reminder of the work that still needs to be done, but it was also an opportunity to spark change, to challenge the status quo, and to rewrite the narrative. The incident involving Snoop Dogg's denial of entry to the luxury restaurant was not just a single act of discrimination, it revealed layers of systemic issues entrenched in elite spaces. While the initial shock of the event reverberated across social media and news outlets, its ripple effects dug deeper, forcing many to confront the prejudices that permeate these environments. Beyond the viral moment, the fallout prompted larger societal reflections about exclusivity, racial bias, and how systemic racism operates under the guise of standards or policies. For Snoop Dogg, the immediate aftermath of the incident was both emotionally draining and eye-opening. Despite decades of breaking barriers in music, film, and business, this moment reminded him and the world that societal perceptions of race remain a significant barrier, even for the most successful individuals. The pain he felt was not just personal, it was collective. It represented the experiences of millions who are denied entry, access, or opportunity simply because of the way they look. It became clear to Snoop that this wasn't just about one restaurant or one policy. It was about challenging an entire mindset that upheld such practices. Snoop Dogg has always been an astute observer of culture, and his response reflected that awareness. Rather than retreating into private indignation, he leaned into the moment. He began addressing the broader implications of the incident in interviews and public appearances. "This ain't just about me," he repeated in one candid discussion on a popular talk show. "This is about a system that tells us where we can and can't go, no matter how far we've come. It's about drawing a line and saying we're not gonna take this anymore." The rapper's words struck a chord. His supporters, both from within the entertainment industry and beyond, rallied to his side. Fellow celebrities like LeBron James, Viola Davis, and Ava DuVernay took to their platforms to express solidarity, amplifying the conversation. Many shared their own experiences of being subjected to subtle or overt racism in high-profile settings. These shared stories painted a bleak picture. Racism doesn't disappear with success, it merely evolves into new forms of exclusion. The discussion quickly expanded beyond the restaurant in question. Social media users began compiling lists of other high-end establishments known for their exclusionary practices. Reports surfaced of similarly discriminatory policies, with countless anecdotes exposing a pattern. Black patrons denied entry for dress code violations, refused service for being too loud, or treated with suspicion even when spending exorbitant amounts of money. These stories, some dating back decades, highlighted the systemic nature of the problem. Meanwhile, Snoop Dogg's efforts to address these issues became more strategic. In collaboration with legal and social justice organizations, he launched a campaign aimed at holding businesses accountable for discriminatory practices. The campaign, aptly named Open Doors, encouraged individuals to report instances of racial bias in public spaces, particularly in luxury establishments. Within days of its launch, the campaign received thousands of submissions, ranging from stories of microaggressions to outright racist incidents. Snoop's team compiled the data, using it to advocate for policy changes and to expose businesses that perpetuated these behaviors. Simultaneously, the Open Doors initiative highlighted the stark contradiction between how Black culture is celebrated and how Black people are treated. The restaurant that turned Snoop away, for instance, was known for its playlist of hip-hop and R&B classics, genres that Snoop himself had shaped. Its interior design borrowed heavily from cultural aesthetics rooted in Black artistry, and its clientele often wore fashions influenced by Black designers. Yet, despite benefiting from the cultural contributions of the Black community, the establishment had chosen to exclude a prominent Black figure, embodying a hypocrisy that many found infuriating. As the campaign gained traction, it became clear that change was not just necessary, it was inevitable. Advocacy groups began calling for stricter anti-discrimination regulations for businesses, particularly those in the hospitality and luxury sectors. Proposals for mandatory anti-bias training, anonymous reporting mechanisms, and fines for discriminatory practices gained momentum. Some high-profile restaurants and hotels, likely fearing reputational damage, voluntarily implemented changes, issuing public apologies and revising their policies. For Snoop, this growing movement was deeply gratifying, but it also reminded him of the burden he bore as a public figure. While his influence allowed him to shed light on these issues, the responsibility to lead the fight often felt overwhelming. He confided in close friends about the emotional toll the incident had taken on him, admitting that the humiliation he experienced had shaken him in ways he hadn't expected. But his resolve remained unshaken. "If this is what it takes to wake people up," he told one confidant, "then I'm gonna keep pushing. It ain't just about me, it's about all of us." The incident also sparked conversations about the broader challenges of being Black in luxury spaces. Scholars and cultural commentators weighed in, pointing out how such exclusions were deeply rooted in history. For centuries, luxury and exclusivity have been associated with whiteness, with high-end spaces designed to exclude people of color. Even as societal progress has opened doors in some areas, these spaces often remain resistant to change, perpetuating the idea that Black individuals can enjoy success, but must do so within certain confines. This historical context added another layer of urgency to the discourse. It wasn't just about addressing isolated incidents. It was about dismantling the systems that allowed these incidents to persist. Snoop Dogg's experience became a flashpoint for examining how wealth and privilege intersect with race, and how even those at the pinnacle of success can find themselves subject to deeply ingrained biases. As weeks turned into months, the incident continued to resonate. The restaurant, which had initially dismissed the backlash, faced significant consequences. Lawsuits were filed by former employees who accused the establishment of fostering a culture of discrimination. Reviews on platforms like Yelp and Google bombarded the business with one-star ratings, many accompanied by scathing comments about racism and hypocrisy. Eventually, the restaurant was forced to temporarily close its doors, citing operational challenges. Yet the closure was only a small victory in the larger fight for justice. Snoop Dogg and his allies knew that the battle was far from over. The real challenge lay in ensuring that the momentum wasn't lost, that the conversation didn't fade once the news cycle moved on. To that end, they worked tirelessly to build a coalition of voices, bringing together activists, artists, and everyday people to demand lasting change. One particularly powerful moment came when Snoop spoke at a town hall event organized by the NAACP. Standing before a packed auditorium, he shared his story once again, but this time with a broader perspective. "This ain't about me being famous or rich," he told the crowd. "This is about the fact that no matter what I've done, what I've achieved, I still gotta prove that I belong. And that ain't right. Not for me, not for any of us." The audience erupted in applause, their energy a testament to the power of Snoop's words. In that moment, he wasn't just a rapper or a celebrity. He was a symbol of resilience, a voice for those who had been silenced, and a beacon of hope for a better future. As the movement continued to grow, it became clear that the incident had sparked something much larger than anyone could have anticipated. It was no longer just about a restaurant or even about Snoop Dogg himself. It was about dismantling the barriers that separate people, challenging the biases that exclude them, and creating a world where everyone, regardless of their background, can walk through the door without fear of being turned away. The journey was far from over, but the progress was undeniable. Thanks to Snoop's courage and determination, what began as a moment of humiliation had transformed into a powerful call to action, one that would resonate for years to come. And while the road ahead remained uncertain, one thing was clear: the fight for justice, equality, and respect was far from finished. And Snoop Dogg was ready to keep leading the charge. In the months following the restaurant incident, Snoop Dogg's efforts to dismantle the deeply entrenched systems of exclusion extended far beyond the United States. The global response to the story had revealed that such instances of discrimination were not unique to one country or culture, but were instead part of a broader systemic issue. Messages of solidarity poured in from across the world, from Black professionals in Europe recounting their own experiences of being overlooked in high-end spaces, to individuals in Africa and the Caribbean speaking out about the global double standards surrounding race and wealth. Snoop recognized the universality of the problem and began collaborating with international organizations to expand the reach of his advocacy. One particularly groundbreaking partnership was with a prominent global hospitality group that sought to set an example by reevaluating its practices. Together, they developed an initiative aimed at promoting diversity and inclusion in luxury spaces. This included mandatory training programs for employees, partnerships with Black-owned businesses, and public transparency reports to hold these companies accountable. Snoop made it clear that this was not about token gestures, but about fostering meaningful, lasting change. To emphasize this point, he helped launch a global campaign called Luxury for All. The campaign aimed to challenge the exclusionary nature of luxury spaces by reshaping the narrative around who belongs in them. Advertisements featured diverse casts of people enjoying upscale environments accompanied by slogans like "Excellence knows no boundaries" and "Redefining luxury together." The campaign became a cultural phenomenon, embraced by brands that were eager to align themselves with a movement that had undeniable momentum. One of the most significant milestones came when Snoop Dogg partnered with a prominent Black architect to design a high-end restaurant and lounge in Los Angeles. This establishment, dubbed The House, was envisioned as a place where exclusivity did not mean exclusion. The House embodied the very principles Snoop had fought for: openness, representation, and respect. Every detail, from the art on the walls to the music playing in the background, was a celebration of Black culture, excellence, and ingenuity. The restaurant's opening night was a star-studded affair, attended by celebrities, activists, and community leaders who lauded it as a bold step toward reclaiming spaces traditionally denied to Black individuals. But Snoop didn't stop there. He began using his influence to amplify the voices of other trailblazers who were fighting similar battles. He invested in initiatives that provided opportunities for marginalized communities to enter industries where they had historically been underrepresented, from hospitality to fashion. Snoop also worked with emerging black entrepreneurs, offering mentorship and funding to those who sought to break into luxury markets, ensuring that others would have opportunities to succeed without facing the same barriers he had. As time went on, the restaurant incident became more than just a viral story. It became a turning point. Snoop Dogg's relentless commitment to justice turned a moment of exclusion into a movement of inclusion. He showed the world that even in the face of indignity, it is possible to rise above and create something transformative, a legacy that redefined what it means to belong. In doing so, he reminded everyone that the fight for equality is not just a battle for individuals, but for future generations who deserve a seat at every table. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Snoop Dogg being denied entry? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.